Pride of Detroit POD cast. Now it's time for the game time. Now it's time for the game show. Now it's time to have fun. This is called Free Agency. It's a very original name. Please do not steal our original OC. Jeremy, how does this work? You came up with this.
Yeah, so free agency is coming three or so weeks away, but before that, Lions are going to start re-signing some of their own players. So what I thought would be a fun exercise to do is I'm going to embody 5 different Lions to be free agents. I am going to come to you two, Ray Agnew and and why can't I think of and Brad Holmes. You guys can be half of each. You guys can be one or the other.
Could I be Chris Spielman?
Sure, you can be Chris Spielman.
Okay.
I'm going to come
really
with
to
you.
be Chris
I'm going to
Spielman.
represent myself and come to you with an offer. You tell me, deal, get the hell out of my office, or let's keep talking. I want you here, but I'm not going to pay you that much. Fair?
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds fantastic.
Okay.
The rules are set.
All right. I'm first person walking into your office. I'm going to kick down the door. Hi, it's John Kaminsky here. Please, for the love of God, re-sign me.
Well, I don't know who
want
you
to be
are.
here-
I don't know who you are. I've never heard
Oh.
of John Kaminsky.
Oh, yeah. Well, you might. It's a good point. Not a lot of people have talked about me.
Put on the tape, though.
If you put on the tape.
Let's slap in the VHS.
But listen, 27 years old. You guys treated me well last year. You got my career off to another start. You revitalized my career. I want to be here. I understand I'm not a huge player. So here's what I'm asking. 2-year deal, $5.5 million. I think that's fair. It's a bit. You guys saw the impact I made on Aiden Hutchinson's game. I opened him up. He opened me up. We worked well together. What do you say? 2 years, $5.5 million.
I don't think we can let John Kaminsky go, Chris. I don't think we can let John Kaminsky leave this team for 2 reasons. One, the first reason is you don't let good edge players walk away. And I think John Kaminsky is a good edge player. He doesn't have to be a starter at 2 years, $5.5 million. He can be a very important rotational piece that you can put out there. So I'm cool with it, Chris.
I would say this, and I'm going to be a bit of a devil's advocate, but I'm also going to countermand my devil's advocacy at the same time. I would say the Lions right now have a lot of edge players. They have invested very heavily in the past few years between Josh Pascal and Aiden Hutchinson, but not just that, about, the Okwara brothers, things of that nature. However, some of those pieces, in particular the Okwara brothers, are what we're weighing up here against John Kaminsky. I think at some point the bow will break in that regard. And look, the Okwaras have both gone through some injuries. Kaminsky at 27 has proven in a year that he is very productive. I think the deal is fair at $2.75 million a year. That's about 52nd among edges out there. And what has this organization always been about is about rewarding those positions. And as you said, like good edges, you just don't let walk. I like this. I might try to get it down to 5 million, but other than like quibbling over about,
You trying to penny pinch me?
That's what NFL teams do.
So we got a
Yeah,
deal.
we got a deal. We got a deal.
Yeah, I think we got a
Tarhoon,
deal.
let's go.
I thought you said you were. Don't do the
sorry.
voice.
I don't think
Not a
that's
visual
John
medium for those
Kaminsky.
listening on the podcast. Jeremy's been wearing a cowboy hat for about an hour off stream, and it's gone to his head.
That's not what John Kaminsky sounds like. All right, John Kaminsky is gone. Now I got.
Are you cool with that though? Real quick, Jeremy. Are you cool?
Yeah,
with
I think
Kaminsky?
I think he might command a smidge more, but not a ton more. I think that's. I mean, given how much edge players go for, like elite guys, getting one for $2.75 million a year is a steal. And it still represents a pretty significant raise for him because he wasn't even making a full $1 million last year. So, yeah, I think that's fair. And I think and I think it's maybe reasonable to think that he might accept a economic
Hometown discount?
Yeah, a little bit. All right, I'm taking the cowboy hat out because I need to let my locks
Please.
flow here. Because guess who's here now? Alex Anzalone. All right, guys, I'm 28 years old. This might be my
Why are we doing role play?
Because it's fun.
Clipped.
I'm
All
28
right,
years
go
old.
on.
This might be my last time to cash in. You guys have had me on 1-year deals the last 2 years. It's time to pay up a little bit more. Last year it was a 1 year for 2.25 million. I need a little more. I'm a leader on this team. I took a lot of you said it yourself, Dan Campbell, who's sitting in the corner. I know neither of you are Dan Campbell, although if you want to be Dan Campbell, go for it.
I wouldn't dare.
You said it yourself. Best year of my career last year. 2 years, $6.5 million.
I'm surprised, Alex Anzalone, that you're willing to come back for that little money. I think it's a good deal in one sense. The Lions can bring back Anzalone and he can be the leader that they need him to be. But I don't know how you don't upgrade that position. I think that there is a clear way to upgrade that position. So it's almost like I think I'm just good with best travels, man.
How would you say the best way to upgrade that position is, Ryan? Is it the draft? Is it free agency?
Brad Holmes did a pretty good job picking Malcolm Rodriguez in the 6th round.
But to your point, though, that is still someone who require a veteran presence there. The veteranship, the leadership is still not resolved.
Maybe, but we just saw the impact that Rodriguez made. And that's kind of the crux, I think, that the Lions are at is, hey, do we just invest a cheap contract at that position, or are you paying a premium for a guy who is, yes, he's a defensive leader and he was a captain for your team last year. I don't know if he's worth that premium, but he definitely had an improvement to Jeremy's point he made on the last podcast. Like he did take a step last year. Like his first year,
he took a step up from 2021. However, in 2022, if we look at, say, his PFF grades, he's about in line with some of his less productive years in New Orleans. So I think this is someone who is, the veteran leadership would be fine. He is obviously used in many passing situations and boasts a decent pass rush grade, but I also think the Lions are investing very well in other places in the pass rush grade. I would probably counter and try to bring it down, but if negotiations are not successful, then I'm on Ryan's side and say thank you very much for your service.
It almost is a matter of how much are we guaranteeing in this contract? Yeah. Because I don't know if I want to make a full commitment to Alex Anzalone. What if the draft board falls the right way? What if the draft board falls the right way and there's a linebacker at the top of the 2nd round that Brad Holmes really likes?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen him invest that heavily in that position, but maybe the board just hasn't fallen that way in the first 2 years. And then you have that player and, now we have a big cap hit on Anzalone.
And that's part of this conversation is we're being very basic with these contract deals, right? Like obviously you could play around with voided years or you can backload a contract and things like that.
Sure.
It would make for a much longer podcast if we went into all those details.
Right.
But yeah, I think Anzalone might ask for more than this, to be completely honest. I tried to make it trickier because I think
you set the line closer to what you would like.
Maybe, yeah. And I also wanted to make it a little tricky because if Anzalone's asking for $4-5 million a year, which I think is within the realm of possibilities, I think it would have been an easy no from both of you. And so
I agree.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. A $3.25 million average would put him 23rd in the NFL. So you're talking about an average player, maybe a little bit above average player. But let's call that one and let's pass on him. But maybe still have him at the table. But now let's talk about Deshaun Elliott. I'm Deshaun Elliott now. Let me tell you. You probably didn't expect me to have much of an impact last year. You probably expected me to be a backup, right? Maybe start the year and let Kirby Joseph come along. And I understand Kirby Joseph, he's my boy. Had a great year. But I don't know how much you can rely on Tracy Walker coming back from his Achilles. And you also what I did out there towards the end of the year. You guys benched me, and I responded. And I know you guys love that kind of culture where if you guys send a message, I don't quit on you guys. I come back with fury. And not only do I think I was one of your best players down the end of the stretch, I think I was a leader. Y'all saw me talk shit about Aaron Rodgers. You love that. I know you love that. And what happened when I was injured in that Carolina game? Y'all saw what happened there. I'm important to this team. So, Spotrac, I love my guys over at Spotrac. They think I'm worth $10 million a year. I'm gonna send you a deal because I'm breaking character here for a second. That's insane. He's not gonna get $10 million a year. But I am valuable. 2 years, $13 million.
When can you start? At that kind of money, I will absolutely take it. Because, Ryan, the depth at safety right now, we have gone over this before, is non-existent. And quite honestly, if you are asking me to choose between Deshaun Elliott and Fatu Melifonwu right now, I think the answer is easy to go to Elliott. Not only that, we can a versatile, flexible player. He has missed some time on injury, sure, but nothing serious, nothing I really need to worry about long term. I am all for signing him for this price. It is hard to, the Lions at this point. I think the Lions at this point, we kind of need Elliott more than maybe Elliott needs the Lions. I say that relatively just because that's how sorry the state of the secondary is right now.
It really hinges on the health of Tracy Walker, in my opinion. How ready do you think Tracy will be at the beginning of the season? I talked about it on the podcast last week, but the Lions, they have a lot of 3 safety looks, and if you want to have Kirby Joseph and Tracy Walker and somebody else out there, I don't think that player right now, like Chris said, is Fatu Melifonwu. So are you going back to that well? Are you drafting a safety for a 3rd straight season? Or like Jeremy said about Anzalone, or about Kaminsky rather, identifying a talent, rewarding it, keeping it here. What a roller coaster Deshaun Elliott's year was. Yeah. And I think probably I'm in agreement with Chris. I'm cool with 2 years, $13 million for Deshaun Elliott.
I again, I'm breaking character here a little bit. I do think it's a tough decision. You already are spending $8.3 million a year on Tracy, right? But you're right. That obviously takes a big key of this entire situation. If you're to believe Tracy Walker, he's going to be ready by OTAs, which I think is a little bit optimistic. I think there's a good chance he starts training camp and is ready then. But then again, is he going to be Tracy Walker, or is he going to be?
He could be on the pup.
Right. He could be.
Right.
And that's a lot to be spending on the safety position, especially when there's a very real possibility Deshaun Elliott could be coming off the bench in a sub package role. And do you want to pay a guy $6.5 million a year as a sub package guy? I don't know. It's tricky. But no, I mean, he definitely showed his value, right? He definitely showed that I think he is a good culture and talented player. So,
well, these next two are going to be really rough for culture and talent too, I'm sure. So
sure.
Here we go.
All right. Hi guys, DJ Chark here.
Hello,
dude,
DJ.
Dude, I loved you in the Katy Perry song.
Is he in the Katy Perry song?
Katy Perry Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
I got it now. I'm going to ignore that comment. It's very weird coming from you, Ray Agnew. I thought we were bros.
Strange.
But okay, so let's talk about last year. I thought it really came on towards the end. I was part of the reason why the offense blew up towards the end of the season. If you take my last 6 games combined, I was on pace for over 1,000 yards. But listen, understand injuries were a concern. I'm willing to take a step back. You guys paid me $10 million for last year, and I understand I still need to prove myself that I can stay healthy. I'm willing to bet on myself. 1 year deal, $8 million.
I think of maybe any of the players that the Lions are coming to the negotiating table with, I think that this is the guy that would be a 1-year deal. And I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't see what's wrong with even going as high as like the same thing, like 1 year, 10 million, because I just view him as being worth rolling the dice on, because if you get, like you said, Jeremy, that full season out of DJ Shark, what he did towards the end of last season, come on. I mean, we all talked about the DJ Shark, Jared Goff chemistry that they developed in training camp, and then kind of flooded out because DJ had to deal with the injuries and stuff. And by the end of the season, the offense was humming along, and DJ Shark was a big part of it. Now, I understand the people who say, well, where is J-Mo going to get his targets from? Josh Reynolds can take a backseat. Like, I think I view DJ Shark as a more talented player, and Josh Reynolds is great. He's an awesome role player. Like, he's an awesome role receiver. I think DJ Shark has a bigger, higher ceiling that he could hit, and it's worth rolling the dice.
I was going to add to this too. I think J-Mo still has to prove himself in a lot of different ways too. He has not
caught one pass
I understand
last year.
What? Yeah, like I understand you're coming off an ACL. It's tough out there. You're getting used to the offense. We've seen that Jared Goff needs time to get used to his receivers, but as Ryan just said, one pass last year. And this is someone, like, I understand the Lions invested a lot of resources into him. We expect him to do great things, but that expectation is still a ways away. DJ Shark looks to be the perfect stopgap.
Sure.
DJ Shark looks to be the perfect stopgap for that. You still need to fill that role while you're waiting for those expectations to blossom.
And they're not going to hand it to J-Mo, right? Like, he's going to have to earn the playing time.
Yes.
And he probably will, right? They're over the moon with the guy. This is a tough one for me. First of all, I don't think necessarily DJ Shark is going to come to the Lions with this offer. I think he can get a lot more elsewhere. The question is what's his priorities right now, because he has professed his love for the staff. He has professed his love for Ben Johnson and the coaching staff that keeps him accountable for his actions. And you know, we all saw him on the Amon-Ra podcast, and he has a really good rapport with Amon-Ra and the other players there. And he's a guy, more so than a lot of other guys, that are going to understand the importance of culture, because he went from Urban Meyer to Dan Campbell.
I was going to say, DJ, do I need to remind you that in your introductory press conference, you talked about how you spurned other offers and came to Detroit probably because it wasn't a giant tire fire?
Right. Yeah. And it's nice to say that about Detroit, by the way.
I was going to say, like, when's the last time we did that?
But the counterpoint is, he's 26. He's still shown that he's got the goods.
Mm-hmm.
And a young receiver that has got a lot in him still is worth a heck of a lot, especially in the most recent years. And so someone might throw the bag at him.
If they did, that would be... You'd have to obviously walk away from that, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're just in Shark's position, maybe it's a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
Something
Maybe
like that.
it's a 2-year deal. You spread out the money a little bit more to just make it healthier for your cap.
Yeah. And I think from this standpoint, you could still hit the open market again when you're 27, or you could hit the open market again when you're 28, and you could be playing in this Detroit offense.
It's fair. All right. Last one.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. It's the Swag Kazakage, leader of the Hidden Den.
Whatever where you want. Yes.
Jamal Williams. Listen, man. Just came off a great 2 years. I love Detroit. I love where this team is headed. You guys gave me a great opportunity, but I produced 1,000-yard season. Beat Barry frickin' Sanders' record. I'm 28 now. This is my, like, everyone knows what happens when a running back hits 30. This is my last chance to really cash in. And I know y'all don't like, I know most teams don't like paying running backs anymore. But I'm gonna need a little scratch. I can't sell chicken wings forever. 2 years, $8.5 million.
Yes. I'm not even just saying
Elaborate,
that
Chris.
I'm not even just saying that as a Jamal Williams guy. Like, look, I think again, for what he's brought to the culture, you reward that, number one. Number two, his particular role in handling the football is not like we talk about running backs falling off the table at 28. Those are running backs that we're talking about who have a very different style from Jamal Williams. We're talking about running backs who are looking to the edge or looking to be explosive playmakers. What Jamal is doing is yeoman work, running back material. And I know usually that doesn't go for a high price, and usually that is considered that is easily replaced. But when you find someone who can do that stuff and do it well, I don't think I need to remind you, and I'm not making this comparison or saying that Williams is anywhere close to his regard, but Adrian Peterson made a lot of time in his career just going straight at the pile and turning some yards where he could. And Adrian Peterson had a very long career. Now that's Adrian Peterson. But I also believe that how Jamal plays, 2 more years is not a problem. I don't know. I will punt it to you, Ryan, in regards to the money, but I think a 2-year deal is very fair.
Okay, so I just want to comment on the deal because I'll step out of my shoes real quick. I think Jamal probably goes in there and maybe wants more than 2 years. I think he could potentially want 3 years. And does that change things, Jeremy? Like lengthier deal? Because I know you looked at, some of the contracts for running backs. James Conner was a 3-year deal. Nyheim Hines was a 3-year deal. So is it out of the realm of possibility that the Lions, because those are guys who are making more money than the contract that you came in with.
Yeah.
I think people would look at those players and look at what Jamal Williams means to Detroit and what he did last year statistically with the yards and with the touchdowns and say he's probably worth maybe even more than those guys.
Maybe. But if you're giving
now,
him a
granted, to
deal,
be fair, and I know Jeremy is about to go into the anti-running back territory here, but
me?
To be fair, on those touchdowns, like we do have to remember that some of that is how the Lions specifically used him in those goal line scenarios.
Runs.
Yes.
But yeah, first of all, I don't like the idea of giving him a 3-year deal unless that's essentially a dummy year deal that he's not going to see. It can be a legit 3-year deal, but it's one where it's just like
it doesn't need to be guaranteed.
Be
doesn't need to be guaranteed.
Because he's going to be over 30, right? Like that. And I know he probably doesn't have as much tread on the tires or he has more tread on the tires, I guess, than some other 30-year-old running backs would. But I don't know, man. $4.25 million a year would put him 16th in the NFL. And listen, his statistical output was probably right around there last year, right? But it's not going to stay there. It's just not. Like, I think last year is probably peak performance Jamal Williams. I don't think we're going to see him cross 1,000 yards again. I don't think he's going to have 18, 19 touchdowns or whatever it was again this year. I think we got peak performance Jamal Williams, which means we got him at a heck of a deal last year. It does not necessarily mean that we need to spend outrageously for him in the future.
So let me ask for Ryan, like less than peak performance Jamal Williams, is that still very good to you?
I'm cool with it because he has shown that he is a very high floor player in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is what I want in a running back, really. Like there have been running backs that have low floor, high ceiling, and we've gone in with them and we've gotten the floor. So high floor at that position, that is attractive to me.
I think this is a great example of one where I'm just like I'm begging Jamal to take a cheaper deal. I'm telling him like, man, we love you here. We really appreciate you. We want to show that in as big a way as we can possible. But if we're gonna build this thing, we can't be overspending on running backs. That's just not how it works in this league. So we appreciate everything you do. Can you take 2 for $7.5? Knock $1 million off. Puts you in line with a guy like J.D. McKissic, which I think we can all agree is a player that probably has the same or lesser value than Jamal Williams. Because obviously the value of Jamal Williams goes beyond what he does on the field. It's him as a leader. It's him as an example.
Teammate.
As a teammate. as a locker room presence, all those sort of stuff matters, and I don't want to underscore those. But you have to balance the budget in a way that makes sense in today's NFL, and I'm not sure $4.25 million on a touchdown machine on a goal line runner, and he's more than that. That's reductive, but
a couple of long touchdown
he
runs.
did. But I don't think that's smart spending of money in today's NFL.
I just don't want to go back to the age where I was sitting there watching running backs who are supposed to do what Jamal Williams does, just getting 1 yard. I don't want to go back to that. I don't think it's easy to find someone. I know it's easy to say there's replacement out there, but I've also seen the Lions try to go by that it's easy to find those replacements, and they failed. They failed repeatedly.
Yeah, C.J. Anderson, anybody?
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blount, anybody?
I mean, even Adrian Peterson was pretty much a failure here, too.
So, but here's the thing.
It's a good point.
With Jamal Williams, it's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. And I think that with the year that he had last year, he can walk into the Lions and say 2 years, $9 million, up to $10 million with incentives. And if word gets out that the Lions passed on that, I don't think Lions fans would be very happy.
No, they certainly won't.
So I can just view this as, hey, like Jamal Williams, they probably got more out of him than what his last contract was worth.
Yes.
Now it's time to pay up for what I maybe missed out on or what I played up to.
Pays that man his money.
I just think you can get in trouble that way by paying based on past performance instead of future performance.
Charles Harris?
Charles Harris.
Sure, but I don't think there's any other metric. We don't have a crystal ball for future performance. All you have is is what you can strain from the past performance.
Agreed.
At the end of the day.
But I think what's interesting though is all these guys. Kaminsky has had one good year.
Right.
DJ Shark, his one good year is kind of in the past in Jacksonville, right?
Deshaun Elliott.
Deshaun Elliott. So, like, of any of these guys that have really done it for 1 year, Jamal Williams has proven over his NFL career to be very durable, to be very dependable.
Yep.
I don't know if you can let that guy go,
and that
even
could,
if it's
change
a little overspending.
And that, to Jeremy's point, that could change as you get closer to 30. But I think that's a risk I am willing to roll. That's the game.
Deal. I'm back, guys.
Deal. I think we were a little too slappy. I think people are going to look at this and immediately be like, oh, of course you just want to re-sign everyone.
It's easy to spend money when it's not yours, right?
I also think there's also, like, people get gooey-eyed at greener pastures. People have asked me, like, for weeks now, what are the free agents you want? And I'm like, free agency is so hard to figure out when it's not your guys.
And listen, like, is it that unrealistic that the Lions bring back maybe all of those guys? Like, probably not unrealistic.
I know people hate that idea. Yeah, I know people hate that idea historically, but if you know it's the devil, you know, really. Like, you know what these guys do.
That's right.
Sometimes it ends up being Charles Harris, but sometimes it ends up being Khalif Raymond.